period of reward, the period of just tremendous, endless, great closeness and revelation of God, spirituality in a way that we can't even imagine. Together, the body and the soul. And then after the sin of Adam Arishon, so then there had to be a different system at play, and that system, as we know, is that the body and the soul had to separate for a period of time, and that's how we experience death. And death is not a punishment in the sense of the word as we understand it today. Today, when people talk punishment, especially in the Western world, punishment is you caused, such and such amount of badness or difficulty or pain in the world, so you have to suffer this much in order to be cleansed from it. That's not how we understand punishment. In Judaism, punishment is only serving a positive function. It's in order to create something positive. It's really supposed to fix something, right? It does. When a HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings certain difficulties in our life, it's all in order for it to bring out a positive benefit, a positive outcome. And so too death. So even though we experience death as extremely painful in this world, death is an amazing thing because it's a part of the process which enables us to be able to be ready for the next stage, which is, as we call, Olam Haba. And according to the Ramchal and the Kabbalist, Olam Haba is not just a spiritual place, it's also a physical place. It's together, the body and the soul. But the body has to decompose and go through its reformation, reconstruction, in order that it will have rid itself of the residual spiritual blemish of the sin of Adam HaRishon, and then it'll be able to receive the light of the soul. So we said that really in this world, that'll ring a bell, everything that we said? Yeah. So we said that in this world, the body is not able to receive the light of the soul. And even a person could be an unbelievable tzaddik on the highest level, that his body, even though it could be so much more refined than the rest of us, but it still doesn't receive even a fraction of the light that the soul is really shining. It's all concealed. That's why the word for world in Hebrew is olam, and the word olam comes from elam, from hiddenness. It hides things. It covers things up. You may just find the page real quick. Show you where we guys are. Page 28. And then after the body comes back in its new form, and the soul goes into the Olam HaNeshamot, the world of the souls, and goes through its process over there. So when they come back, that's what we're going to talk about today. What happens right when they come back together? And there's just one more thing I wanted to mention that we spoke. I don't know if it was last week or the week before about the concept that tzaddikim, their bodies don't decompose, right? And we shared a story about the Noam Elimelech, that even 200 years after his burial, and he was in the Holocaust, and he was dug up. Right? You guys remember the story? And it's a well-known thing that the bodies of tzaddikim don't decompose. So I just happened to come across the actual source for that in the Gemara. That there's a story. I can't remember if it's in Bava Metzia or Bava Basra on Masechet Shabbos. I'll double check for you guys if you want. There's a story about someone who came to in those days in the times of the Mishnah and the Gemara, they used to bury. Right? It was a different system than we have today, and there's a story that somebody went in one, and they didn't realize that what it was, and it was really the cave of a tzaddik, and the tzaddik started talking to them, and they freaked out, and they went to one of the Amoraim, and the Amoraim went in there and had a whole conversation, and he said, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" And he's like, "You're already dead. We're conversing like you're alive." And he reached into his grave and he felt his body, and this was years after this Amora had passed away. He felt his body, and he said, "But isn't there a decree on mankind that from the earth you were taken, to the earth you will return?" Meaning, ever since the sin of Adam HaRishon, so we all have to decompose. He said, and so the tzaddik said, it's true, but for tzaddikim, it's only a sha'a achat lifnei atchiyah. That since they refine their body so much, even though it didn't really shine their soul to the degree that it should and that it will in the future, but since according to their level of work that they did, it should have been so, right? They should have not had to die. So their bodies don't decompose at all until a short amount of time just before the revival of the dead, and then everybody has to go through that process, right? So that's the source in the Gemara. So we said, bringing it back, that was just an aside. Just you guys see that there's the source in the Gemara for that. That's very, very interesting. We said that what does the soul do in the world of the souls, in the Olam Neshamot? So we said that while the soul is in the body in this world, it's very constricted. Not only can the body not receive its light, but it itself can't really spread its wings and shine its light to a full degree, right? Just because it doesn't have an audience, so to speak, that the body can't receive it, and also because of the constriction of what it is in the world in its present state. So, but when the soul is freed from the shackles of that limited body in this world, and it goes to the Olam Neshamot, over there, it spreads its light in all directions, and it's able to really stretch out and be its full self, and it elevates in that stage, and then it comes to the time of what we call Tchiyat HaMetim, which we're all waiting for, which is so important, so fundamental to Judaism that it's the second bracha that we say in Shmona Esrei, every Shmona Esrei that we say, right? Our belief in this is very, very important. This is not just a moot point. It's not just kind of like a small aside of Jewish philosophy. This is a major, major fundamental. The point that the Rambam says, if we don't believe this, so we're really not aligned with Jewish belief. It's a major, major part of our belief, and it's not something that we talk about so much in modern times. It's something that the older generations spoke about quite a bit, and they were, there was more of a focus, not a focus, I wouldn't call it a focus, but there was more of a comfortability to talk about death, and the more of a, I would say, more of a comfortability to kind of ride through the difficulties of this world, because they were very much attuned to the fact and very much aware. It was a deep part of their awareness that this world is just part of the story, right? There's a famous story of the Rabbi Rayatz, the previous Rabbi of Chabad, when he was taken. You guys know there's a famous story. He was taken to jail, and they wanted to kill him, and then they wanted to give him a life sentence, and in the end he got out after 17 days. Amazing, amazing story. He writes about it in fine detail. But one of the stories that came out of that is that at a certain point they were interrogating him, and they wanted to get him to talk. And what they really wanted is them to give names of other Jews that were doing things so that they could catch more Jews. So at a certain point they pulled out a gun and they pointed it to his chest. And so he smiled, and they said, "You think this is funny?" And he said, "No." He said, "Those don't work on me." And he said, "What does that mean?" They never heard such a concept before. He said, "This works for a person who has two gods in one world, but I've got one God in two worlds. I'm not scared of it, right? We're not scared of death. We should be scared of not living. That's what we should be scared of, right?" So in the world of health, and today there's a whole movement of anti-aging, right? And there's a friend of mine, showed me this health guy in California, a very famous guy, and he says, "I'm going to live until 180. That's his whole thing. But the purpose here is not just to live and live and live and live. For what? What are we living for, right? That we're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose, and the more that we're focused on that, the less we're bothered by the vicissitudes of life and the difficulties that every single one of us goes through. Nobody gets out of here without difficulties, right? And the more that we're focused on this, not that like we throw this world means nothing to us. We're doing something extremely important in this world, right? But this is a stage, and there's other stages, and they work together. If we understand the picture, so we're much more at ease with it, with the way things run. So that was just in parentheses. So then comes the moment the body has decomposed, and all the bodies in the world, including all the tzaddikim who their bodies were intact until just those moments before the revival of the dead. Now everybody, all the bodies return to dust. All the bodies go through that process. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Here's the time," and he awakens those bodies and he reconstitutes them, and all the souls come from the world of souls back into the body. What's going to happen then? That's what we're talking about now. So Yud Gimel, you guys see on Yud Gimel, not page Yud Gimel, Ot Yud Gimel.
But if so, we read that souls can come back to make tikkun of previous life. So when there is resurrection of the dead,
which body?
Which body? Because there is one soul, maybe 5 bodies. So.
Right. It's a good question. There's the truth is there's different opinions about it, but I think the majority opinion is that it's going to come to the last body. The last body.
So the other 4, they stay dust because they don't have any soul.
Yeah, exactly how that works.
We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's funny because that's a question that always comes up. Everybody that talks about Gilgulim and so that everybody wants to know, but it's not really written about so much. It's just a little bit, like one or two sentences. Pavasham.
Sorry if this is too off topic, but is it discussed when we come back as a new soul? Are we born to the same parents and their soul, or like siblings? Is that all the same, or how does that work?
So, yeah, it's a big topic. The truth is, Gilgulim is a big topic. It's extremely interesting topic. Not everybody, but many people are very, very, it'd be good maybe to learn about it together. But the souls that are a part of your life, your inner circle of people in your life, your mother, your father, your siblings, spouse, children, right? Rav, best friend, different things like this. Those souls are together with you each time around, b'derech klal, depending on who's done what, who's completed, who hasn't completed their tikkun, but and it's not always the same rule. In other words, it could be your mother now, it might be your sister before, right? And these are things that nobody really understands exactly how it works and how Hashem's cheshbonot are on each time, but that's what we understand. So what's it going to be like? What's the family model going to look like in the future? I don't know if anybody can say. Maybe those people have written about it, but I don't know that we have so much of a tradition on that.
So be nice to your sister because she could end up being your mother one time.
Right. In general, be nice to everybody, but especially your sister, right?
The Baal Shem Tov, there is a story Baal Shem Tov that wrote. He spoke about this, but it's a long story, so there's no time.
Okay, maybe the end. Yeah. There's lots of stories. You never know. Your mama should never know. What. I mean, the Svarim said that even the person you pass on the street one time, there's a reason for that. The nothing is just stum. There's no way to translate that. And nothing is just happens sake. Circumstance. Everything has some type of meaning. But what is it? We don't know. And we would go crazy if we tried to understand it all. So we try to get the major principles and live our life by that, and pay attention to signs. The Gemara talks about how the different Tanaim Amoraim, where they would listen to signs, they would see signs in Hashgachas Hashem. Hashem was communicating with them. But if every leaf we're trying to understand the meaning, so we might get stuck, in that. But the truth is, the Baal Shem Tov says, and this is a big chiddush for the Baal Shem Tov said that every single thing that happens in this world, even the tiniest little movement of a blade of grass, how many times it moves to the left, to the right, how long it lives, is not just controlled by Hashem and Bashgachas Hashem, but it's also contributing to the purpose of the world. All of it is intentional, and it's contributing to what we're really here to do. Right? It's not just circumstantial.
And how does that work? Because we say that Hashem has specific hashgacha over the Jewish people versus animals or other, so.
Right. So that's talking about just the system of how it works. And the angel, the grass has an angel that's telling it go left, go right, right? Because it understands the plan of Hashem and it's doing it for I wouldn't say that it understands the plan of Hashem. He's fulfilling the shlichus of Hashem to, you're in charge of the grass, you're in charge of the wind, you're in charge of the sand, you're in charge of the tides, you're in charge of the moon, the stars. right? That's what the angels do. But for a Yid's life, Kadosh Baruch Hu himself is involved in every single one of the things without an angel, right? But it's all the same thing, and it's just a different system. It's more intimate relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu in that sense. Okay, all super interesting topics, and it gives us a much deeper perspective. I think just the last thing I'll say about that. I think one of the most painful things in our generation, which is something that I think is different than, I can't say because I don't remember being alive in other generations. I'm sure I was there, but I don't remember that because the world seems so accessible today and so big. You read the news and it makes man feel very, very small. There's so much stuff going on out there. Advertisements. Everybody's having fun somewhere. Doing stuff. They're all smiling in their advertisements. Look, I'm wearing this new sweater. I'm smoking a cigarette. I got my new glasses. I'm the happiest person on earth. I'm not feeling so happy right now, right? The way that the world is designed right now, the popular culture makes man feel very, very, very small and insignificant, and therefore, unless I do something big, unless I'm famous, unless I'm influential in some way, so what is my little corner of the world? What am I accomplishing over here? And the truth is, you're accomplishing very, very much. You might even be accomplishing more than the person that is famous and seemingly influential. Matter of fact, there's a story. I said that was the last thing, but I have to share this one story. There's a story. I forget which Amoraim this was. But one a son, one of the sons of one of the Amoraim, he had what we call clinical death, and then he came back. Right? He was gone and he came back. And when he came back, his father asked him, "What did you see? What did you see over there?" So he told him an amazing answer. He said, "Olam hafuch raiti." I saw an upside down world. Not a physical upside down world. I saw a backwards world. El yonim lamata v'tachtonim lamala. Those that are on bottom were on top, and those that are on bottom are on top. So it sounds like upside down world. Rashi explains that he says that people that seemed so insignificant and unimportant in this world were really great and important over there, and the people that were really great, that seemed really great and important over in this world, were not so great over in that world, right? So it's not talking about like tzaddikim. It's talking about people, who, you guys understand, so that's a very eye-opening Gemara, but when we talk about these the deeper sense of how Hashem runs the world and all the things we've been talking about for the last couple of minutes, it gives an added presence in our mind of the significance of every single one of the details of our life. Because Baruch Hu, it matters to him, it bothers him enough to be able to be involved in the intimate things of our life. So it means it's pretty important. What we think, what we do, what we say, how we relate, how we behave. Okay, now back to the Ramchal. So what happens when the soul comes back in the body in this new state? Yud Gimel. V'ulam tzarich shteda. Ki gam ata b'yikanes haneshama b'guf ha'over. Sorry, I jumped the gun. This is one more stage, but one more thing that Ramchal wants to teach us before the soul comes back in the body. Ramchal says, there's one more thing I want you to know. He says that when the soul comes in the body, in this passing stage of the body as it is right now, even though the soul hasn't done anything yet, meaning a baby comes into this world that doesn't have any good deeds, no mitzvahs. It's going to be another 13 years until they can even fulfill a mitzvah, really, right? So it doesn't, from the side of it hasn't acquired any greatness for itself yet, the soul, but just the very fact of the purity and the holiness of that soul coming into the body, from that aspect, if things would go to, so to speak, go in a natural way, meaning if there hadn't been the sin of Adam Harishon, and Hashem hadn't decreed that the body is not able to receive the light, because that was a decree. Hashem says, so to speak, to the body, you will not receive the full light of the soul, just a little bit to keep you alive, right? But you're not going to, but if it wouldn't have been that decree, what should have happened, meaning in a natural sense, is right when the soul comes into the body, even before any good deeds or any type of, right, that it should have totally purified the body, just because of the greatness of the soul, the quality of the soul, right? It's like if you have a room filled with tinted windows, like strong tinted windows, right? So if you put a little candle in there, so you're not going to see anything from the outside. But if you put a huge projector in there, and you put one that's so strong, you could bring a light that's so strong that you don't even realize that the windows are tinted. It's shining so strong. That's what it should have been, just from the very entrance of the soul into the body. But Hashem decreed that it's black, that the blackout windows, nothing's getting through there. It's totally opaque, right? So ad sheyeh yotzeh migeder hamin enoshi. It should have been in the sense that right when the soul comes into the body, the person would almost exit the state of being a human being, meaning as we know it. He'd be so great. You guys, I think we mentioned this a couple of years ago, that when Adam Harishon, the Midrash says when Adam Harishon was created, he was so spiritually shining and powerful that all the creation the angels started singing before him. They were confused. Who's God? Maybe this is God, right? And that was before he did a single thing, right? Just the very fact of his soul coming in the body, because that soul, he has realized the soul is the highest thing in creation. There's a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and all the different hishtalshus, all the different levels of worlds that Hashem created, and the angels, and then this finally down at the very bottom, this world. In that whole scale between the bottom of this world and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the highest thing on the scale is the soul. It's the most godly thing in this entire creation. It's only one step away from God, right? And when the Kadosh Baruch Hu put that all the way down, stretching down into the body, which, by the way, that's what a lot of the Sfarim said. That's what this was the dream of Yaakov Avinu when he saw the ladder, right? That it reached up to the heavens and it was placed and it touched down into the ground. That's the soul, right? Because it's all the way to the very top, but it reaches down into the very bottom, right? And it shines so much that they were like, oh, here's God, right? And Hashem said, whoa, let's take it easy here. And he cleared things up. But that's what it was supposed to be like, right? Just because of the greatness of the soul. But the decree of Hashem overpowers the body. The soul. And he dims the light. He doesn't dim the light in its actuality. The soul is the exact same soul as it was, right? But he doesn't allow it to shine outwards. So the soul stays there inside of the body and inside of itself, totally imprisoned and enclosed in itself, not being able to shine outwards. Especially not to the degree that Hashem really wanted it to, so in order that it would refine the body, right? And therefore it's not able to fully fulfill its function to the body. And that, like we said last time, that's part of the pain of this world. Part of the underlying human pain is not just because what we read in the news and the different events that go in our life. There's a certain underlying pain that human beings feel, they sense, even though they can't put their finger on it, they don't know why. Sense is like, there's a sense that I'm not doing what I can be doing, what I should be doing, what I'm able to be doing. This world is supposed to be more, right? It's not just because you didn't get enough education or you didn't. It's because your soul really can't do what it wants to do in this world. Understanding that gives us a tremendous amount of comfort, right? Because I don't have to tell you guys, when we're not in shir, we're not learning Torah. Sometimes you're just sitting alone and you have this feeling. Today we would call it like sadness or depression or something, and something's wrong. There's a feeling that something's wrong, this subtle kind of background feeling, right? And sometimes it takes the foreground, but most of the time it's in the background. This is where it comes from. This is part of where it comes from. The soul's trapped, right? It's part of the decree. And then that's talking about the soul when it comes into the body on day one, birth. But as a man goes and he does more and more good deeds and more mitzvahs, and he reaches higher and higher levels, so his soul should have shined even more into the body. And then it would totally refine and purify the body. But now, since the decree took place, so that spreading and overpowering and shining of the soul only really begins in actuality when it enters into the world of souls, right? So it's amazing. It's like you're racking up tremendous spiritual wealth in this world, and you might not have any sense of it whatsoever. You might not feel any of it, right? And Chassidus has a very big focus on feeling it and connecting the world of feelings and connecting to spiritual pleasure, dafka, in this world, right? Even though it's very, very minimal compared to what the spiritual pleasure we'll have in the next world. But what the Ramchal is saying is that you could be a billionaire spiritually, and you're just eating a can of tuna your whole life because you feel even billionaires might eat cans of tuna. I don't know, but you understand what I'm saying. Living very frugally spiritually and feeling in his ability to tap into what he has, right? It's a very it's a point to ponder. One of the great things when you're in the presence of tzaddikim, of real tzaddikim, and for me, one of the experiences that I have, the feelings that I have when I'm with them, is like they ascribe, it's not an intellectual thing, they really feel the importance of what they're doing, right? They're in it. Does that mean, they carry themselves like a king, the malchus. That's why by Chassidim, in the third generation of Chassidim, so then some of the Rebbe started to do what they call malchusdige zachen, that they they have build big beautiful shuls, not just beautiful shuls like we've always had, but very majestic and kingly, royal shoes, and they dress royally. It's said that the Rizhiner Rebbe, he was the most famous for this. That he used to have a carriage that was like with 8 where they were pulling it, and it was very, very ornamented and very, very beautiful. And he used to go with these very, very beautiful clothes, but he didn't have soles on his feet, on the shoes. He was walking barefoot. He wasn't doing it so that he could benefit from this world, from being wealthy. That wasn't the idea. The idea was that we should feel the importance of what we're doing, especially in those generations when Am Yisrael was so just beaten up by millennia of Galus and the pain that was there, right? But in any event, it's important to realize that, I think practically, that just because you don't feel the importance of what you're doing, that doesn't have anything to do with is it important or it's not important, right? There's a reality that's taking place, a spiritual reality that's taking place, that we just don't have we don't have the hardware to be sensitized to in this world. That's the point. Okay, last paragraph here, and now we're going to talk about what happens when the soul comes back into the body. Achen b'shuva baguf, achar atchiyah. But when the soul comes back into the body after the revival, lo titma'et v'lo titalem. It's not going to be the same type of setup. The soul is not going to be constricted, right? The soul was constricted in this world. It went into the olam neshamot. It threw off the shackles and it was finally able to be itself and sing its beautiful song. When it goes back into the body, it's not going to be restricted by being back in the body anymore. It's not going to be hidden and enclosed in there. It's going to come in with all of its glory and with all of its light and with all of its power. And immediately there's going to be a total refinement of the body on that first moment of that meeting, which is not like this world. And it's not going to need to have like a developmental stage. Okay, like in this, like children in this world, right? For us, we have years of even physically developing, and then even more years of spiritually developing. Right, our whole life we're spiritually developing. It goes in gradual stages. We're trying more and more and more and more, right, until we get there, and we're not able to do it before. Like they say in neurobiology that the human brain is only fully formed at around age 23, 24. So around age 15, 16, a person has 50, 60% of their physical brain. So dafka at the age where kids think that they know much more than their parents. They literally have half of their brain that they're going to have, right? But don't tell them that. But but it's an amazing thing. 24 years, the horse is born, like 10 minutes later, he's up and walking. Human beings, it's like such a slow process, right? So here he says the soul comes in. There aren't going to be any stages of development in order for it to be able to receive that beautiful light of the soul. Right away, it's going to be totally refined. Right away, it's going to illuminate the body. And immediately, it's going to purify it, a total refined purity. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be more elevation after that. It just means right then they're going to be able to have a visceral experience of exactly the level that they're on, that the soul is on, unlike this world, right? The concept here is that right when the soul comes back into the body, the man is going to be on a whole different level that we never experienced mankind like this. And the body's going to have that first initial refinement, which means it's not that it's going to receive the full measure of the light of the soul at that moment. And it will have an immediate elevation, much higher than everything that it experienced in the life of the Olam Hazeh in this world. And what's gonna determine the level of refinement that each person's body gets? The good deeds that they did in this world before, right? So all the things that you do now for 120 years, that's what determines how much light your soul will be shining when it comes back into the body, and therefore how much your body will be shining as well. And that will place him on the level that is appropriate for him to be receiving the pleasure of those who achieved greatness and perfection. And then after that, they'll go higher and higher, because it's not like we just get there to Olam Haba and the first minute you already get everything, and then it just stays like that. It's a constant elevation, each person on their level, according to whatever they were able to accomplish in this world. How does that sound, gentlemen? That's it. Now we understand Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba, right? Every time in the Torah Kadosh, in the Gemara, in Chazal, when they talk about Chaye Olam Haba, right? This is what they're talking about. And every time that we talk about Shabbos is Me'en Olam Haba, it's like a little drop of Olam Haba. This is what we're talking about. That's the pleasure that we're talking about. That's the kind of setup that we're talking about. Okay.
But there is also written that every time that we do a mitzvah here has immediate effect in Olam Haba.
Immediate effect, not in Olam Haba, immediate effect in the higher worlds. In the higher world. Right. Olam Haba is here. It's a different stage. It's a different stage. According to the Kabbalists, it's a different state of being here. There is a spiritual world called Olam HaNeshamot, right? But I guess to describe what you're talking about in very short, a very short explanation, is that, like we said before, there's HaShem, and then there's our souls, and there's the whole system of angels and all the worlds. So it's like the whole infrastructure of how this world works, right? It's not just that there's a physical world and it's unattached to all the other higher worlds.
Okay.
Everything is connected, right? So I think I might have told you guys this once, but I was at a water park, and I think a kids museum, children's museum in Houston once with my kids, and they had this thing. They had like a little water thing outside, and they had this thing. There was like a big like tub of water, and there was like kind of like an escalator of buckets, and the kids would have to fill up waters in the buckets, and the bucket goes up, and then it spills into the big tub or the big jug, and then it comes back down, and the kids have to fill it up again, and when it fills up enough, so then it tips over the big tub, and all the kids go running under and get a nice shower, right? So I looked at that as a mashal for that, the way it worked. A yid puts on tefillin in this world, He says, why am I doing this? Rabbi Shalom told me to do it. I don't feel anything necessarily. I mean, if I feel a little bit, maybe feel spiritual. I feel good that I did something, in the Torah. I know that I'm connecting to Hashem. I might not necessarily feel it, but I put my tefillin on, right? In the higher worlds, he just sent a huge bucket of water up to the higher worlds, right? And then it pours into the big bucket, and then the big bucket, right? All the shefa that a person has in their life, all the different blessings that we have in this world, like we say in the second paragraph of the Shema, that it comes from the mitzvahs that we do, right? Matter of fact, that the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says that if there wouldn't be one Jew that kept Shabbos, Chalila, if there would be a Shabbos, then there wasn't a single Jew in the world keeping Shabbos, the world would cease to exist. It would just fall apart, right? So you're keeping Shabbos is doing something. You're gonna go test it? I don't think we want to do that, right? But and all these things, I remember having a conversation with a dear friend of mine who he wanted to believe in the Torah. He wanted to believe in the mitzvahs, but he was having a hard time believing in it. So we spent the whole Shabbos talking, and one of the things that came up is like, he said, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if the Torah is not true, right? So he said, if I'm wrong, I ate a lot of good cholent and kugel. What did I miss out on? I said, but if you're wrong, I said, you're in big trouble. You don't want to miss out on all that. It's a much bigger risk, right? So I don't see the direct connection between what I do in this world and the higher world, because there's a whole system, the way Hashem made it. But what I do here feeds all the way on the top, and then it trickles down into this world, right? But Olam Haba is more it's a stage of time, right, where we'll be in a different state. Make sense? Yeah. Let's just start this next chapter.
Sorry, at the end it says that it's whatever you did, that's what you'll have, but it's not permanent, and you can still elevate it. So does that mean there's still the possibility of fate in the next world?
No, what I understand that the Ramchal means is that is not that it's no longer the stage of working for it. It's built into that stage of Olam Haba, that there's constant betterment, constant growth, constant enrichment. So,
wow. Is it by doing mitzvot, or it's just
you're starting? It all depends on your starting point. Wherever you start from, you keep on growing from that place, right? But exactly how it works, I don't know exactly. He really just says one sentence about it. But what I understand from him is that it's not just that, like, okay, you got this much, and this is it's great, this is what you're going to be for eternity. It keeps on getting better and better, right? Each one, he says, each one according to their level, which I understand from that is each one where they start out at, Yeah. No. The Rabbi Nachman says, as a matter of fact, the Balatanya writes in the Shulchan Aruch Harav, he writes that a person should try in their life. This is in Hilchot Talmud Torah, learning the halachot of learning Torah. And he says that he gives over there at length what a person should learn in their life, what their focus should be on in their learning. Very, very fascinating, very important. And one of the things he says is that a person should, at least once in his life, try to go over everything that the sages said, meaning all the major pieces of Torah. You're talking about Tanakh, you're talking about Mishnah, Gemara, Talmud, Bavli, Yerushalmi, the Midrashim, the things that our earlier sages said. And then he says that in whatever you don't understand or whatever you forget, in the world to come, it'll still be yours. Right? Memory is something that is a limited experience in the world as it is. But once you touch something that's infinite, something that, like the Torah, so it's infinite. It's there forever. And Rabbi Nachman says even further. He says whatever you read, even though you didn't understand it, but you took the time to try to understand it, in the next world you'll understand it very deeply, right? No, Babich Rebbe spoke about that on also a number of occasions, right? We should try to learn, even, right? I know a Yid, he passed away a couple of years ago. An old Yid, and he had this amazing thing that he couldn't remember anything that he learned. I remember like a teeny little fraction, but he didn't remember anything. kind of like that movie Groundhog's Day. I don't know if you guys saw that. Groundhog Day. Every day is like the same thing, the same story over and over. So he didn't give up. Every single day until he passed away, he would go to the base medrash and he would learn Torah. Steigen. No, remember? Don't remember. Right? That's not my job. Is to learn. Rebbe Shalom didn't give me a mitzvah to remember Torah, right? And there's a last thing I'll tell. We'll start the next chapter next week. But there's a student, one of the main students of the Chassam Sofer and the Khatam Sofer was the Maharam Shik. Maharam Shik was known as one of the most brilliant minds in the Jewish world in the last hundreds of years. He was extremely sharp, extremely brilliant, had a mastery over the entire Torah. Maharam Shik. He writes about himself the following. He said, when I was young, my brain was so closed and so unable to understand anything. And he said, not only that, this I don't know who can say this, but he's a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, so we listened to his words. He said, from the beginning of creation until my generation, there was never a person that had such a closed mind as I had. A mind that was totally incapable of understanding Torah. And he said, but I didn't pay attention to it. And he was telling us over to give strength to Am Yisrael. He said, I didn't pay attention. I went every day to yeshiva. And even though all the boys were growing and they're learning, and I literally didn't understand a single thing, not one daf of Gemara, I couldn't understand anything, not one Rashi. That's what he writes about himself. Efes, zero. He said, but I kept on going. Okay? I said to myself, that's not my category. My category, my work is to make my shtadlis, to make my effort. A bunch of give me mitzvah of learning Torah. It doesn't say you only learn if you're able to remember. Every single Jew has a responsibility to learn Torah. I'm going to keep on going. And I davened and I davened and I davened. And eventually HaShem opened up my mind. And he was able to attain, and just understand, he attained the level of being known as one of the most brilliant minds. Right? And he writes that about himself. And he said that the Gemara says that in the future, if a person wants to say, I wanted to learn Torah and I wanted to be tzaddik, but I was too poor. I didn't have enough money. So in the Shemaim they're going to say, were you as poor as Hillel? Hazaken. Hillel didn't have a shekel to his name, and he went every single day to the base medrash. You guys know the story. He fell asleep on the window with the snow on top of him, right on Shabbos, and so he said Hillel atid lechayev et aniyim. So Hillel is going to cause a problem for those that want to use that as an excuse. And it says a person might say, well, yeah, but I had such a yetzer hara. All the time I was thinking about women, and all the time I couldn't get my mind off those things, and it's just too distracting. I wasn't able to be a tzaddik. They said, did you have klum ayalach hanisayon? Did you have such a test like Yosef HaTzadik? Nobody had such a test as Yosef HaTzadik, right? So that's also not an excuse. So the Maharam Shik said, anybody that's going to come up to Shemaim and say, my mind just couldn't grasp Torah. So they're going to say, was your brain as dysfunctional as the Maharam Shik? So he said that nobody should pay attention to that. You keep on learning. I don't know how we got onto this, but anyway, it's a powerful story and important for us to be mischazik in there. Okay, gentlemen. One of the pleasures of Olam Haba is we're going to get all that Torah back, and even this year we'll be able to remember. 10 minutes from now we might not remember what we were talking about. And Olam Haba we'll remember it all. And also, just one more nakuda about that. We've said this before, but I think it's just one more.